took the station from something that did basically block programming with Broadway musicals and classical and everything, and pretty much made it uniform progressive rock, and actually got some numbers in the book to look good.
Welcome once again to the Talking Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs, and it's an honor to have with us. He's evenings on TIX in New Orleans, or TIX 94.3. We've got JD the DJ. Thanks for coming on.
Well, it's great to be here. I happened to stumble across your website, and I was looking for information on Terry Young, one of our disc jockeys at WRNO way back when, and happened to find your website. And,
now, did you work with Terry at there as well?
Yeah, he was at RNO when I was there doing weekends, but of course, being a weekend guy, we seldom run across each other. But I did. I think I have a picture of him with Magic Dick from the Jay Giles band backstage at the warehouse. That probably was 1979 or so. But yeah, we did. And he's been to a couple of our New Orleans broadcasters radio reunions, which we have every year around the beginning of June. So as a matter of fact, we're coming up on one shortly. So
that's right.
He's been around, and so far the people we haven't been able to coax in for radio reunion are Dick Van Dyke, who worked at Channel 6 TV here way back when, and John Larroquette from Night Court. He was Judas at WWOM, which is a station I actually worked for in two different places.
Did you get to work with John Larroquette?
No, he was gone well before I got down here. I came from upstate New York, very end of 1972. WIXO had taken over the WWOM call letter station, rather, and I don't know, there were like 2 days left in the year when I got down here. So I don't know when he left WWOM, but I saw on the web somewhere that he came back in 2013, I think, to get an honorary degree of some sort from the University of New Orleans. I don't know how we missed getting a hold of him and getting him out. Of course, it was probably not anywhere near the beginning of June. So,
well, Night Court's no longer in production, so maybe he might make a surprise appearance.
Yeah, you never know.
Well, tell us about your life growing up and how you got into what Stan Freberg called the theater of the mind.
Yeah, I remember some of those Stan Freberg commercials, dropping the marshmallow into one of the Great Lakes, and all kinds of things you couldn't really do, but he did them on the radio. And in fact, I ran across his spoof of Dragnet, St. George the Dragonette. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
No.
It's definitely worth a listen. Probably came out in the late 50s. I loved it. But anyway, well, I've already alluded to the early parts, which were at upstate New York. Was born in Rochester, New York, home of Kodak and Xerox and Taylor Instruments and Bausch and Lomb and I don't know who else. Mm-hmm. And I went to college at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York, which is the nation's oldest engineering school, founded in 1824.
Wow. Did you ever get to tour any of those factories when you were a kid?
Well, a lot of my friends had dads who worked at Kodak, but I never saw the inside of Kodak. I saw it plenty of times driving by, but no, I never got to see the inside of the place. But since I do kind of like photography, I wish I had. But started out as haloids, but it became Xerox after the xerography process, and it actually moved to the little suburb where I actually spent most of my time up in the Rochester area, just east of Rochester, a town called Webster. And anyway, I got into radio at the college, which was naturally WRPI. And it was completely student-run, and it was owned by the school, but the students ran it entirely, from engineering to getting the license for a serious upgrade from 1 kilowatt at minus 40 feet above average terrain with a single-bay antenna to tower. It was a 750-foot translator tower that Capital Cities Broadcasting donated to the school right before I was it was in my freshman year. I guess they made the donation, but my sophomore year I spent revamping the studios there to go to FM stereo and up the power to 10 kilowatts. So we actually had a signal in the Albany-Troy, Schenectady area, and showed up pretty seriously in one of the Hooper ratings, at least. So it was kind of unusual. We did, basically what is now album-oriented rock or progressive rock. Took the station from something that did basically block programming with Broadway musicals and classical and everything, and pretty much made it uniform progressive rock, and actually got some numbers in the book to look good.
There you go. And were there any new artists that you broke there that eventually made it big time afterwards? Because that was the great thing about progressive underground freeform rock and roll was you basically played the stars before they were stars.
Yeah. Well, we had a show called Folk Fest that a good friend of mine, fellow student Rob Friedman, did, called Folk Fest. We had Don McLean out there before American Pie, and I was trying to remember if we ever had Pete Seeger out there. But there was a pretty well-known folk club up about 25 miles up the interstate in Saratoga Springs, New York, called Cafe Lena. And I think Bob Dylan played out there, and, talk about a small venue, It was interesting to see. I did go see the Bob Dylan movie to see if any of that stuff showed up, but nope. We had, I was thinking It's a Beautiful Day, but I don't think we ever had them out there. We had Earth Opera. It was a not so well-known group, but they were out there, and
I got to check their music out now. That sounds like a really cool name, Earth Opera.
Yeah. I mean, we did play a lot of progressive artists, but I don't know if you could say that we actually broke them, I can remember playing the Doobie Brothers album, Toulouse Street and whatnot, maybe a harbinger of me coming down to New Orleans. But I remember playing that well before listen to the music ever really hit, and
wow,
that's probably all I can think of in that regard.
Yeah, now when you arrived at WRPI, I get these callers mixed up all the time. You actually were there and you helped rebuild the studio. Tell us what components were added to upgrade it to the stereo sound.
Well, the main thing was the antenna, an antenna tower that was, I forget exactly how far away it was, 6 or 7 miles from the studio. The studios stayed in place, and we just basically revamped them to add stereo audio chains. And prior to the rebuild, basically all of the studio equipment, the console, everything other than, turntables and things like that were home built, line amplifiers that ran, we had carrier current AM in the dormitories, the freshman dormitories and the upperclassmen dormitories. All those transmitters essentially were built from scratch. We actually had quite an array of well-versed technical people there. The guy that founded National Teleconsultants out there in Glendale. I think you're out in California, right?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, Elliot Graham and Chuck Phelan out there. They built the MTV studios. I think when MTV first went on the air, they designed and constructed those. They did a lot of work for PBS and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Pretty well known in the television industry. In fact, most of my buddies from RPI ended up in the television arena. Ed Hobson was president of the SMPTE, Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers, the folks that bring us color bars at the beginning of our videos. And he worked for Grass Valley Group that made a lot of video switchers and whatnot prior to PCs having video editing capability. And I don't know, Rob Friedman, who I told you founded the Folk Fest at WRPI, ended up doing weekends at WFLY, which was the first real FM top 40 in the Albany, Troy, Schenectady area. And then he went on to went down to the University of North Carolina, took a master's degree down there, and came back, and he ended up programming WNYW TV, Fox 5 flagship in New York, and he also, I think he was involved at the Spike TV network.
Oh, yeah.
And he worked at a station in Cincinnati, WXIX, I think. And like I say, a lot of people ended up in the television industry from there. So,
wow. We were talking with JD the DJ. He's evenings on WTIX 94.3 in New Orleans. In fact, if you want to check out his website, he's got a lot of great features there. JDthedJ.com. That's JDthedJ.com. And next time, JD shares the first paying gig he got in radio. Plus, we'll find out about the Space Shuttle program.